Good day, subscribers! Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jeremy. This is the Financial Education Channel, and today we're talking about how did I screw up Apple's Q4 numbers so freaking bad. I was way off. If you guys recall, last week I posted a video about what I believed Apple's Q4 numbers were. I had them way above what the analysts were expecting and whatnot. And boy, was I wrong. Holy smokes, I was way off. Way off. So today's video, we're going to dive into and see, how did I screw up so bad? What are the mistakes I made when analyzing Apple for this quarter? And I believe this video will help you guys immensely in kind of your thought process on thinking, maybe I should have approached it this way or that way, because a lot more can be learned sometimes from a mistake than actually something that was successful. So I just thought this is a great opportunity. Let's go ahead and get right into this, guys. So first up, we're looking at what Apple reported for numbers for their Q4. So we're going to read through the first couple lines here. We're starting at Cupertino, California. Apple today announced financial results for its fiscal 2016 fourth quarter ended September 24th, 2016. First off, right off the bat there, the quarter ended September 24th. That's something if I did more research on, I should have known. Whereas I thought the quarter was ending September 30th. So right off the bat, we have 6 days less of revenue, profits, all that stuff than I was even expecting. Now, that still doesn't make up for how big of a difference I had, but it still matters when a company like Apple, with how much revenue they would have coming in from the new iPhone and stuff like that, this is huge. I call this lazy Jeremy syndrome. And this is why you guys have to be exact when you look at these type of things. If I was doing what I used to do, which is like betting on basically a company's earnings, and I was sticking a ton of money in Apple, and I was expecting this great earnings, something like this helping cost it, that would have been a horrible decision. Lucky enough, I don't do that anymore, but still, this is something I should have researched. It's big. The company posted quarterly revenue of $46.9 billion and quarterly net income of $9 billion, or $1.67 per share. So let's go ahead and take a look now at what I had for the company. We see here that the company reported 46.9 and 167. Let's look at what I had. I had $2 of EPS to $2.10, so I was way above what they actually reported. And I had $54 billion for revenue. So we still got a lot of money to make up for on how I made this mistake, because they reported basically $7 billion less than what I had. $7 billion less than what I had. Huge difference we're talking here. So the quarter ending September 24th versus ending September 30th, like I thought it might, that matters some, but we still got to find some more money here. So next page up, we're looking at, by the way, Apple basically just barely beat analyst estimates, in case you guys are keeping track. Analysts had $1.65, Apple reported $1.67, and revenue just barely beat by like $100 million. So let's look at where their revenue actually came from. So first off, America's down 7%. That's surprising. I thought America's would at least be flat, if not grow a bit. So down 7%, that accounts for definitely a big percentage of my mistake. And then look at Greater China. That's something I did not anticipate at all. Greater China revenue came at $8.7 billion. That was down 30% year over year. Q4 2015, they did $12.5 billion in Greater China. It is amazing to me what has happened with Apple in China. Apple was growing like insane in China. There was quarters like, this is literally talking about like a year or two ago, like 2 years ago, they were growing revenue by like 99%. Ridiculous rates. And now to be down 30% in your revenue in Greater China, that's like mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. I cannot believe that. And that's something, I saw there was weakness in China in the last couple of quarters, but I really didn't think there would be this much weakness, and I thought they would get back to growth with iPhone 7. Not true at all. Is that Apple's mistake, or is that just the Chinese economy being softer than it was 2 years ago? I don't know. let's get into this. Japan grew a bit, that's fine. Rest of Asia Pacific was basically about flat. So let's go down and look at these products now. So iPhone did 45 million units versus last year it did 48 million units versus I had them doing 51 million units. So I was considerably off. Now, one of my big theses was that Samsung in this whole recall thing, that was going to affect Apple in a very positively way. And this is where lazy Jeremy comes in again. Being lazy and not really looking into these numbers. And this is why investing is literally hard work. Some people think it's just luck. No, it's freaking hard work. And you have to look into all these things. So let's talk about this. The Samsung effect. I was thinking the Samsung thing affected the whole Apple quarter, right? It did not. If you actually look at the dates back when the Samsung recall happened and all that stuff, it was the very end of September and beginning of October is when the recall and all that stuff happened. So my whole thesis did not matter at all for this past quarter. It absolutely can matter and may matter for this future quarter, the one we're in now. But for last quarter, it didn't matter at all because the quarter ended September 24th. The recall happened the very end of September. So the whole negative Samsung effect, that didn't affect Apple at all in the past quarter. So that's what you call lazy Jeremy being lazy Jeremy and not really researching and looking into this. So that is totally a mistake on my part instead of, it's just a big mistake. It's a big mistake. So I hope this helped you guys understand that investing is hard work and you got to really be exact. When exactly did such and such happen? When exactly did that product come out? When exactly? It's got to be exact when you're investing. If you try to just go off of recall and say, oh, I think, it happened around there like I did, you're going to wind up with a big mistake like we had right here. iPad units. iPad units fell also. That I expect to grow. iPad units, I had them doing around 10.5 million iPad units versus last year they did 9.8. I thought iPad would get back to growth. This isn't such a more of a lazy thing on my part. This is just flat out iPads aren't selling as well as I thought. So I can't really fault myself for that. I mean, I guess you can fault myself for anything, but at the same time, this is just, I thought iPads would sell better than they did. And the fact that they're 1 million units plus off of what I thought, that just proves that iPad's very weak right now and people are not upgrading their iPads like they used to, if at all, or buying new ones. So that's what we have there. Mac, I did expect Mac sales to be down, and sure enough, they were down. They were down almost 1 million units, Mac were. Services revenue was one of the few things I got right. I had services revenue growing 20%. They actually grew 24%. So bravo to me. That's one thing I actually got right on this whole Apple deal. Other products accounted for 2.3 billion, which is also down versus last year when other products was at 3 billion. So that's a 22% decline. This once again is not necessarily me being lazy, me just being wrong, flat out. I thought Apple Watch 2 was going to sell much better than it did in the quarter and move more units. I thought, the Beats and all those other products were going to sell better, and they're down 22%. I was flat out just wrong on that, just like I was on the iPad units. There's really nothing to blame on it other than weak demand for Apple products in those categories. So let's go ahead and look at next quarter and just kind of view some things here. So Apple is providing the following guidance for its 2017 first quarter. Revenue between 76 and 78 billion is what they're expecting. And last year, for reference, they did 75.87 billion in year-ago sales. Analysts expect about 75. So Apple is expecting to get back to growth, very slow growth. I mean, if they only do the very bottom range, 76 billion, versus last year they did 75.8, that's like anemic growth. It's like 0.1% or something ridiculous like that. They can do around 78 billion, more the top range. That's about a 2% growth, maybe 3% growth, somewhere around there. So Apple is expecting to get back to slight growth. Now, this is where my whole negative Samsung effect and all that stuff can come into play. And that whole theory But the bottom line is, even with all that said, Apple, are they even a growth company anymore? I mean, I know they're not going to be like one of those companies that's growing revenue 20% or something ridiculous a quarter anymore. They're too big for that. The law of large numbers is real, and it happens, and Apple is experiencing that. But can Apple even grow at a 3, 4, 5, 6% growth rate anymore? I have a lot of questions about that right now. You'll have to, guys, we'll just have to see on my 3 stocks video I'm buying now. In November, I'm thinking, should I drop Apple from my 3 stocks to buy list? Right now, my mind isn't made up, but that video is coming out next week, so I need to make up my mind very, very soon. I hope this video helped you guys immensely today in understanding a mistake, and that it's not to be ashamed about a mistake, and it's great to call yourself out if you were lazy, and it's great to call yourself out when you're wrong, and look into things and figure out why you were wrong. Don't just be ashamed and put it in the past. That's what so many people do when investing or whatever. They're embarrassed, and they're like, oh, I was wrong. Oh, throw it away. I don't even want to look at it. Instead of looking at these things, because the more you look at them and figure out why I was wrong, the less likely you are to make a mistake in the future. It helps greatly. Thank you guys for watching, and subscribe if you haven't. I talk a ton about personal finance on this channel. Business, I'm an entrepreneur. I give entrepreneur tips, and I talk a lot about the stock market and do channels just like we did today. Thank you guys, and have a great day.